World is on tonight.
That was a tremendous day. I just want to thank everybody, but tremendous investments into the United States, and our military community is very happy, and we want to thank you and Saudi Arabia. But hundreds of billions of dollars of investments into the United States, and jobs, jobs, jobs.
All right, President Trump wrapping up an historic first day of his overseas trip as president as the firestorm continues back home over the Russia investigation. The moments that changed America's standing overseas and the ones that will be going viral, of course. Then the new study from Harvard that will shock the left and why you'll be happy you're watching Fox right now. Plus, Watters World goes looking for Hillary Clinton.
20. I think Hillary's been here.
Welcome to a very special edition of Watters World. I'm Kennedy, in for Jesse tonight. Yesterday, the president embarked on an historic overseas trip to 3 holy cities. First stop, Saudi Arabia. We have a jam-packed show tonight, but first up, let's head to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where Fox News chief White House correspondent John Roberts has been with the president all day long. John?
Kennedy, good morning from Saudi Arabia. I think you could probably safely say by most accounts that President Trump's very first day of his first foreign trip has been a success. You know, these things can often be fraught with peril. One wrong word, one wrong move can often derail the entire plan. But the president, the closest he came, I think, to an actual faux pas was when he started drinking tea with his left hand instead of his right hand. Across the Muslim world, it's very important that you eat and drink with your right hand and not the left hand. Despite the fact that he got a lot of criticism for ostracizing the Muslim world by his rhetoric during the campaign, the president is very popular here. From the moment he touched down here in Riyadh, he had a royal welcome. King Salman came out in 100-degree heat to make sure that he was standing at the foot of the stairs of Air Force One to shake the president's hand and then shake the First Lady's hand as well. The big event here was the signing of that $109 billion arms deal between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia that will include tanks, armored personnel carriers, helicopters, ships, and the THAAD missile system. It will, according to Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, help Saudi Arabia become a more powerful force in the region. Listen here.
I think sends a very strong message to our common enemies. It strengthens the bonds between us, and it does chart this new pathway forward and will guide our path forward. You know, at the core of our expanding relationship really are our shared security interest.
With the president literally besieged by bad news at home, this trip has been a welcome diversion for him so far, getting a chance to do the traditional artist sword dance before a state function, a state dinner at Maraba Palace along with King Salman. To hear the Saudis tell it, this visit really has completely repaired a strained relationship. Here's the foreign minister, Adel Al-Jubeir.
This is a truly historic summit. This is a turning point in the relationship that will take it from a strategic relationship and partnership towards a truly strategic relationship.
Today was really all about pomp and circumstance and signing off on agreements that were already cooked. Tomorrow will be the real test for the president. That's when he appears before the Arab Islamic American Summit before some 50 Muslim and Arab leaders, in which he will deliver an address about Islam and terrorism. He will talk about the importance of rooting out extremism, getting rid of extremist ideology, which really is the building block for terrorism, and finding a different path. He will say this could be a turning point in the Arab and Muslim world. Kennedy?
Thank you very much, John. I'm drinking tea with my left hand. I hope I've offended you. All right, even the Saudi foreign minister, Adel Al-Jubeir, said this is all about the trip.
His worldview is wanting to restore America's role in the world, and we support that. He wants to defeat ISIS, and we support that, and we will work with him on that, as we do right now.
So is this a positive partnership in the works? Joining me now, it's Hudson Institute fellow and House Armed Services Committee member Rebecca Heinrichs, and she's joined tonight by Lawrence Jones. He's a host on the Blaze TV. Welcome to both of you.
Hey, Kennedy.
Good to be here. Hey. Rebecca, I will start with you. What is your main takeaway from this big, potentially $350 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia?
No, it's great. I think it's a good thing. And the reason we need to have it, especially now, is because we have to counter what the Obama administration did over the last 8 years with empowering Iran. Iran is an enemy of not only the United States, but of Saudi Arabia as well. And it's been wreaking havoc throughout the Middle East. And so we have all this upheaval. So we have to sort of counter the balance now. And we have to give missile defense systems, et cetera, to Saudi Arabia, because the Iran deal excluded missiles, which are, of course, the delivery systems for nuclear weapons. And so if the Iranians are going to be building these missiles and testing them and spreading them throughout the region, the Saudis have to have a way to counter that. So I think it's a great step for sort of resetting this relationship with the Saudis, and it's sorely needed and overdue.
All right, so Lawrence, let's talk about this a little bit, because is this trip really about ending Iranian hegemony in the Middle East?
Well, here's the deal. When we talk about the Saudis, when you talk to military analysts, they'll say, hey, the Saudis don't have the proper military equipment to fight ISIS or when it comes to terrorists in the region. So now what you have is this president making a move, negotiating this deal so these people have the necessary tools. And since they're proclaiming to be peaceful Muslims, I want to see them on the ground fighting now. Since we're giving them all this money to get all this equipment, I'm looking forward to seeing them linking arms with us and not just talking on the sideline.
All right. I mean, but one thing that might be problematic, Rebecca, of course, was Congress giving the okay for American citizens to sue Saudi Arabia for involvement in 9/11. Obviously, there is a lot of contention here in this country about what Saudi Arabia might have been responsible for on that horrific day. So, Rebecca, how does the president address that?
Yeah, I think right now it's not something he needs to talk about publicly. You know, right now I think he is determined at this point to build this coalition, to inspire this coalition of Arab allies and possibly other allies to get involved in fighting ISIS and other extremist organizations. We need to move forward. If there's things in the past that's not going to help that effort right now publicly, he's not going to aggravate on purpose. He's going to actually move forward and do this. And so I think, you know, it's long overdue, and he's going to be cleaning up a lot of the mess of the previous administration. But again, you know, he's got other issues he needs to deal with the Saudis. They've got human rights problems and other things that Americans ought to care about, the president cares about. Yeah. He can deal with that stuff privately right now. The alligator closest to the boat is ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other extremist organizations throughout the Middle East.
Well, Kennedy, this president is not tiptoeing around as well. You know, they have a lot of customs in the Middle East. The president is being himself. He's being respectful, but he's requiring respect as well. One of the things that I liked is that the Saudi prince shook the hand of his wife as well as his daughter. That's big, because they typically don't do that. They don't respect women the same way we do in the West. And so this president is requiring respect. You're not going to see all this bowing and an apology tour from this president. He's making it very known that we are the world superpower. We will assist you in fighting terrorism, but we need you to extend a hand as well. And that means respecting the president as well as his family.
I agree with you, Lawrence. And part of being powerful and part of being looked up to is standing up for our most important ideals, particularly freedom. And that means defending civil rights and civil liberties, and a part of the world where, you know, Rebecca, frankly, I disagree. I don't think that we necessarily need to closet all of these discussions. And if the president is going to stand up to the establishment in this country, I think it would be very bold of him and very well received, especially here, if he stood up for freedom in Saudi Arabia.
Well, I think he's doing it by example. Again, you know, he's going there. I thought this was fantastic. Secretary of State Tillerson, actually, whenever he gave a talk next to the Saudi foreign minister, he kind of read the riot act to the newly elected president of Iran, Rouhani, by listing all of these human rights abuses that Iran has and all these reforms he expects to see right next to somebody who represents a country that has a lot of those problems as well. Yeah. And I thought it was a very clever and a sort of, it was just a very clever a way to list those things. The Saudis understand the problems they have. Remember, the Saudi royal family is secular. The religious people, the Shura Council, they also govern, but that's the religious group. So the secular royal family understands very well, and that's why they've been sort of taking away some of these more extremist books, et cetera, that have been causing problems.
One of the main criticisms that many people leveled against Hillary Clinton in particular, and the Clinton Foundation as a whole, was accepting millions of dollars, potentially tens of millions of dollars, from Saudi Arabia, which has such a horrific human rights record, particularly with gays and women, Lawrence.
Right, and they got away with it for years, and the Obama administration really didn't do anything about it. So you're seeing this clear contrast. Another thing I want to note, Kennedy, is if you remember during the primary as well in the general, you had a lot of pundits, especially on the left, saying that this president didn't have the temperament to communicate with these world leaders, that he would be too bombastic to settle these type of disputes. But what we're seeing right now is this president is really cool about it. He's really chill about it, but he's making sure there is a standard. He's not going to tolerate this. A lot of people criticize the president as it relates to handling gays, but this president has been the most accepting out of any Republican of the LGBT community.
Absolutely.
So what we're going to see is something different with this administration. They're not playing all the games. They're not going to go through all the formalities. This is a businessman requiring excellence.
Okay, so Rebecca, I know that President Obama was mocked relentlessly by the right for his overt 90-degree bow back in 2009. Did President Trump bow too far? Was there a bow? And will people be talking about the bow on Monday and not about James Comey?
You know, I think, the media is going to try to spin what, the story that it wants to hear, but the only bow I saw was when he accepted the highest civilian medal from the king. And that's, you got to get the medal on your head. So I thought that was okay. It was definitely not the same kind of bow that President Obama gave. I will say something else, too. There's a lot of people talking about the First Lady not covering her head. She didn't cover her head. I thought that was wonderful. No American woman representing the United States should cover their head in a Muslim country, so I support that. And I should note, too, that Michelle Obama didn't do that either. So kudos there where it's due. But again, I want to say something about the human rights. We can deal with that, I think, privately with the Saudis because we can't do everything at once right now. The Saudi family understand that those are problems. We got to move forward. We got to handle ISIS.
Well,
Speaking of moving, Lawrence, I want to ask you something very important, perhaps the most important question I will pose to you this evening. The dancing. What would you give it on a scale of 0 to 5,000?
Look, it wasn't much rhythm there, but at least they tried. They're trying to be fun. I'll give them an A for effort, okay?
All right, very good. You didn't use my scale, but, I'm going to have to take points off for that. But both of you have done a fine job tonight. This has been a great conversation and a heck of a way to kick off Watters World. So, Rebecca and Lawrence, thank you both so much.
Thanks, Kennedy.
Have
Take care.
Night. Very good. The mainstream media still harping about the firing of James Comey. But do voters care? We're going to ask them next. And Watters World goes in search, not of Sasquatch, but of Hillary Clinton. That's coming up.
I'm with her. Still nothing.